So welcome to all of you. I'm Willem Kraus from Knowledge Resources. I hope you're going to enjoy the evening with us. The format will be basically, we're going to start with, I'll introduce the authors and the two editors and the contributors that we have on call. And then also we will talk around the book, specifically why and how and what the book is all about. And we will have great stories from both Anne and Shirley, and also from Augusta. And we will talk about the intricacies of visioning and how you can make sure that your dreams come alive as well. So just one or two things about Knowledge Resources for those of you who are new to us. We're basically, in short, we do two things. One is what you experience here tonight. We are a publisher in the business, let's call it the business and the related fields within the context of South Africa, Africa, and developing markets. That's where we play. We're boutique publisher. We publish about 10 to 15 titles every year. And that's on the publishing side. And then we also, and I think if you've seen on the screen some of our conferences that we run, that's conferencing, workshops, training, that's what we do. That's the bigger part of our business. Incidentally, if you have any questions, we would like to keep it as interactive as possible. If you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A or in the chat room. We will pick it up there and discuss your questions or your comments. If you have a comment there, then please do post it. Okay, so we're here to celebrate this great book, The Power of Visualization, African Journeys of Purpose, Resilience, and Reinvention. And the two champions of the book is Dr. Augusta Dorning and Dr. Shirley Zinn. Every time that I have to introduce the two of them, I am very much intimidated because their CVs are long and very, very impressive. So I'm going to start with Augusta. She is a healthcare leader with more than 40 years of proven success in senior leadership roles in the public-private consultancy, as well as non-government healthcare sectors. Today, Augusta is the managing partner of Extraordinary Hospitals of Africa, which is a multidisciplinary consultancy established to improve hospitals on the African continent. Prior to establishing her own health consultancy, she led the Africa strategy for Lenmet Group. And prior to joining Lenmet, she was the hospital general manager of the largest private hospital in South Africa for 9 years. She was the first woman to lead the hospital in its 120 years of existence. So apart from that, as you can imagine, she has been awarded various awards. She was a finalist in the 2013 Most Influential Woman in Business and Government Awards, Healthcare. She was a nominee for the same award in 2014, and again a finalist in 2015 and 2016. Augusta was also nominated for the Business Women's Association of South Africa Healthcare Award in 2014. And there are other many awards that she has achieved. Also that she received. She has a MBA from Stellenbosch Business School and a doctorate from the same business school. So to you, Augusta, welcome. We're going to have a chat just now. Let me move on to Shirley. Shirley hails from the Cape Flats. She moved through her university career, which was at Western Cape University. And then she went to study at Harvard, obtained a master's and then a doctorate in education subsequent to that, a master's. So today, Shirley serves on various boards, Sanlam, Spur Group, Spar Group, MTN South Africa, and also Tuesday Consulting, the Boston Consulting Group. She's also as an academic advisor to various boards. She serves in trusts and so on. And she's also the chairman of the V&A Waterfront and also West Grove. Then she cut her teeth in the HR field after she left the education field, and she was also, amongst others, I'm just going to mention 2 or 3, HR director at Nedbank, Standard Bank, Woolworths, as well as SARS. She's also the author of Swimming Upstream, which is a biography, also published by us. We were privileged to be involved in that. So to you also, Shirley, good evening.
Thank you.
I hope you are well. Then let's move on to Anne Pratt. Anne sits in the US at the moment after she immigrated, or I'm not sure whether he immigrated or just moved to the US, where she's involved in various academic and consulting and being author and speaker. She serves on amongst others on the Harvard Business Review's Advisory Council. She's a Harvard Center of African Studies Fellow. She's an executive coach. As I said, she's various publications. She also, and I wanted to, when she's going to talk around her story, I would like her to talk to also talk a little bit more about your podcast, and which seems very impressive. She's also a multi-award winner of various awards, amongst others, in the business woman field. In the corporate world, she spent time with Unilever, McCann, and as well as McCann Erickson, amongst others. To you also, Anne, welcome.
Thank you.
And then our last guest is Julie. Just incidentally, Anne wrote the foreword to the book. And lastly, we have on our panel tonight, we have Julie Taburi. She's one of the contributors to the book. And she's also the author of this book, Inspirational Leadership, which we published a year or two ago. So today, Julie is the Socio Development and Transformational Executive at the SPA Group. Prior to that, she was the Group HR Executive. She's achieved, she's got a PhD in leadership and performance and change from the University of Johannesburg. She's also contributed to a couple of other publications that we published, chapters that she wrote. And she has a wonderful story from where she comes from, and her sort of journey through adversity, culminating in a wonderful success story that is really a role model to all of us. So, okay, here we are. Thank you very much. I'm now gone through the formalities from that point of view. Okay, I'm going to kick off by asking Augusta and Shirley, and either one of you can shoot. How did the book come about? Why did you decide on the book? Who is this book intended for?
That one's for Augusta. I think she should start. She started this entire journey, so she initiated this. So I'm going to hand over to her and I'm going to build on it. Okay,
Augusta, the ball is in your court.
Thank you very much. And Shirley, you're pulling the age card now, hey? But I receive it with grace. Everybody, it's just wonderful to have you on the call. And I've just received a delightful message from an upstanding member of the LENMED board. So Norma, I'm so excited to see you. Thank you so much for that message. So in 2014, just after my first book was published, I started dreaming about what my second book would be. And almost impossibly, I decided that I wanted Shirley to co-author the book with me. I didn't know Shirley. I'd never met her, but she was a role model in my life as a result of me having read her book, Swimming Upstream, which Wilhelm referred to a few minutes ago. So I started dreaming about how this would become a reality. And I started a journal where I would plot out the chapters. I would imagine what we would write about. And slowly over the years working in healthcare, obviously it's a 24/7 business, as most of you know. There isn't much time for play. But this dream of mine sat in the background, and it was a very real feature of the dreams that I had for myself. And then in 2022, while I was still with LendMed, I was dashing through Oliver Tambo, and who did I bump into but Shirley? And of course, I was delighted and intimidated all in one breath. But Shirley remembered me from my LinkedIn posts. I mean, isn't that just incredible? And there was an instant connection, and there was a warmth to our connection. And I knew then that I had received the message. And we'll speak about receiving the message during the course of our hour this morning. And then, by the grace of serendipity, just a couple of weeks later, an incredibly well-known international executive coach by the name of Megan Galloway posted on LinkedIn about visualization, using it as a tool. It was a short, punchy post, and I just took the initiative and I sent it to Shirley on LinkedIn by way of a direct message. And I said, Shirley, I've had this dream, and I would just love you to work on this project with me. And to my utter amazement, within a couple of minutes, Shirley actually replied, and she said, Augusta, I'm going to do it. So just be careful what you wish for, because once you have been the dog chasing the bus and you catch it, then you have to take it further. But to not make light of the situation, it was the most incredible Christmas and New Year for me in 2022. And then we started combining our insights on how we would develop the book. And what you have probably in your hand, or what you've read about or seen online, is exactly what's there. So Shirley, just thank you to you again for bringing an incredible dream to reality. It's been, just for the benefit of all of you, it's been incredible for me to get to know Shirley, my role model, on a personal level. So never give up on your dreams, no matter how crazy they may seem at the time. Well, Helen, I appreciate that so much. I'm so grateful.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Augusta. Shirley, do you want to add anything?
Thank you very much, Wilhelm, and a very good afternoon to everyone online. It's just been an incredible journey from the beginning, as Augusta just explained, and this is all documented in the book. In fact, we captured all our LinkedIn chats, and it's documented in the book as the evidence of what happens in magical moments. And what happens when you truly have a very strong vision about what it is you want to achieve, and how the universe almost conspires to make it happen. And so there's something magical about that as well. But there's also something deeply moving about that. And tonight, just before I say anything more, I want to thank Wilhelm and Knowledge Resources, first of all, for publishing our book, and also publishing my first book, that Swimming Upstream, that many of you might have read. And I see some very familiar faces online. Thanks to those of you who have already started to put things into the chat box. I'm so grateful to so many people. I'm grateful to Augusta, to Anne, to Tuli, to all our contributors and endorsers, to my family and friends and colleagues, and my husband, Kevin, and Camilla, Augusta, who started this with us. And then, of course, to Anne for the most inspiring forward. And I'm so happy that Anne and Tuli are on tonight. And so for me, Wilhelm, to answer your question, the power of visualization is really deeply aligned with my personal and professional journey. And I shared that in the Swimming Upstream book, but it's really reflections about overcoming fear and self-doubt and systemic barriers and emotional tragedy and trauma, and a few triumphs over seemingly insurmountable socioeconomic challenges. And I know that Anne is going to mention Nelson Mandela a little bit later on because that's core to her current work. But I do want to say that, as I listen to Augusta tell the story, I want to say that the impossible is indeed possible. And it happens when we have a powerful inner vision, and we do it with those who love and carry us through our journey. And so the power of visualization has moved me and motivated me to understand the importance of education, for example, that was going to be key to my liberation, and then becoming a champion of how we unleash potential in human beings, how education plays a role, how love and care plays a role in ensuring that people who are often alienated, who struggle with all sorts of challenges, can get onto a transformative journey, can go on a healing journey beyond the barriers, beyond the distractors. And I want to say, if your soul can feel it and your mind can see it, and it's kind of it's beyond cognitive thinking, really. It's about thought and action and awareness, and it's the link between your brain, your gut, your soul, and the grit you prepare to put into making your dream a reality. And so it's more than just about dreaming, because as Augusta says, you then go and do something. You try to make the connection, you try to build a relationship, you reach out. And really, the power of visualization is about seeing beyond your current reality and the constraints to what really a better future for yourself and others, your society, your community, can look like beyond the barriers and tripwires and systemic limitations. So it's about clarity of focus, and it's about action and impact. And I just want to encourage you all here tonight, because I know each one of us has a journey, including myself, which we will share a little bit later on. But we have incredible human spirit that can, through visualization, as a child, I could see myself, when those teachers said to me in matric, you should be thinking about going to university. You have the potential to do much more. When they said that, I could already begin to see myself studying at university. Somehow somebody believed in me and planted that seed, So I think that there's a lot to be said about transformation and healing and overcoming, because we have the strong inner vision that we can share with others, and that we can enable ourselves and empower ourselves to overcome huge challenges. Your dreams do not have an expiry date, by the way. So it took Augusta so long, and it took us a year to put this book together. But I can tell you now, it has been an incredible journey. So do not defer and do not postpone your dreams. There's no expiry date on the power of your dreams.
Thank you, Shirley. Now that you mentioned the university, it something quickly triggered my mind. A couple of years ago, we had an event, and it was about positive organizations, and we had a school principal from the East Rand who basically had, when she took over, it was one of the worst schools in terms of matric results. And within a few years, it was the best on the East Rand of all the schools. What she did, amongst others, she would take all the matriculants at the beginning of the year, and she would bring them to UJ and show them around and let them sit there, as she said, on the lawns, and then picture how they're going to walk there in the year following, and so on. And that was so inspiring, and that is making the vision, bring the vision alive. So, any case, I'm going to move on. I wanted to share that before I forget. Anne, you've been through a tough period, couple of tough periods. share that a bit with us. Your and the role that visualization played in overcoming cancer and so on.
Willem, thank you for that question. And firstly, before I do that, I really want to say congratulations to the village. And as Shirley alluded to, it always does take a village. So to my good friend Shirley and Augusta and all the contributors, to Tuli and Willem, you and your team, I think you've done a great service to bring this powerful work to people across the board. And before I begin, I just want to say it struck me when Shirley and Augusta asked me if I'd write the foreword, what struck me was about visualizations for professionals. And I think so often in the boardroom and in our professional lives, we talk about big picture, we talk about vision, but we talk about it and we verbalize it. I think that professionals and people right across, the corporate sector, the various sectors, but I think for professionals, this book provides a guiding light as to how you can amplify visualization, very much in the same way, Willem, that you're referencing people in the school, because when you reinforce different senses, when you can see it and hear it and touch it and feel it, you then believe it. And I think that there's a great opportunity for professionals all over to take this visualization exercise to another level to make the impossible possible. So I just wanted to preface it. Coming back to your specific question, personally in my life, I have used visualization to create exciting possible dreams. As a young child watching a movie called E-Lollipop, seeing two little boys, a little white and black kid, running around New York City, I always imagined and dreamt that one day I would live in America, and here I am. I think that you spoke about dealing with adversity, and I think we're living in a twin pillar moment of despair and hope in the world. And that's for multiple reasons. The world is in this very chaotic state. And I think that when you are in a place of darkness or despair, which on a personal level, in March 2023, I had a colonoscopy and endoscopy, and I came out of that on March the 21st, actually, and my gastroenterologist told me I had a healing ulcer. 3 days later, March the 24th, 3:30 p.m., Friday afternoon, the phone rang. And I'd left a message for him, so I thought he was responding to my question, my query. And he wasn't really answering the questions, and he just stopped me mid-sentence, and he said, "Anne, you have cancer." And it was, and instinctively and in a visceral sense, I knew this was tough, tough news. The first week, I was told I was stage 1. The second week, I had more tests. I had a CAT scan. I was told I was stage 2. And the third week, I had another test, and I was told that I was stage 3. And so the staging went up, 3 times in 3 weeks. And, I remember after that call on Friday, the 24th of March, Saturday in the morning, I woke up early. I went for a walk on the beach. It was overcast. It was me, the ocean, Pahapa, and the seagulls. And I said, "God, you have to let me live long enough to finish my work and my commitment to Nelson Mandela to use leadership as a leverage to change the world. You need to let me finish my job. My work is not yet done." And in that process, I went through a lot of anxiety, a lot of despair. I remember sitting in my bedroom. I've had a lot of angels that have supported me along the way, earthly angels. But I remember one day just looking out the top, being on the top floor, looking out the window at the trees and the sun rising and just crying. I wanted my mother with me. It's like, "Mom, where are you?" She passed away on my birthday in 2013. So I was stuck in darkness and despair. And my village, and dreaming and visualization too takes a village. And we learn that in Africa, that it's our Ubuntu, it's our village that unites and ignites a community to make things possible. But I have some incredible earthly angels, and one of my earthly angels, she's an ex-South African who lives in the United States. She's been a hospice nurse for 21 years, and her husband is a friend of mine. I met him on LinkedIn. Anyway, Enika reached out to me, and Enika just started sending me incredible videos of people who had survived stage 3 stomach cancer. And one of them was actually a chef. And in fact, there's a story about him. It's a chef with half a stomach, and how he survived and then went on to create a kitchen and creating recipes and food. Because one of the challenges with stomach cancer is you can't eat very much. I actually went down to 48 kgs at one point in time. I went down to a size 4. I'm 5'7¾" high. So, it was, but what I want to say is that visual, those videos, those stories. So I had stories of people, I could read it. I had a video, I could see it. And I had the care of Enika's voice calling me, and I could hear it. And it was in that moment that I said, my way out is through. And I developed, so that visualization stimulated new thinking and possibility. Those images translated into what I call my cancer cure plan. It's a possibility plan. And I ended up doing a lot of research. What route was I going to do? Was it going to be just Western medicine and chemo and immunotherapy and surgery? Was it going to be just, the natural route of organic plant-based diets, etc.? I did a lot of research. I grew up in a medical family. And I also give thanks to my late mother and my family for inspiring holistic health. And Augusta, you're in the medical field, but, inspiring holistic health and healing. So I decided, I put together a cancer cure plan, a possibility plan. It was a combination. It was a twin pillar strategy of Western medicine combined with holistic healing. And, during this, and I want to say this because I could see that I would live and that I would make it, but I knew it was up to me to take action. And that action was based on research and stimulating visuals and imagery from friends around me. So just to give you an example, after my stage 3 diagnosis, they had to, delay the chemo. Actually, sorry, they started with chemo. They delayed the surgery. I went through 6 weeks of surgery, but all the way through the period, I took Mandela's leadership blueprint, which is the work I've been working on. And Shirley, you're part of that wonderful message and movement. But I took Mandela's leadership blueprint and I applied it to my own life. I used physical intelligence. I did 100 push-ups every day, 30 on my fingertips. I went for a 50-minute walk. I had a 10-minute run. I did organic plant juicing. I then went to chemo, and then I went for infrared saunas to detoxify my body. And then I had cold ice shower to rejuvenate the body. So I changed my eating, my sleeping. I did morning gratitude. I did, and above all, I think I reinforced what is my purpose? What is the meaning of my life? My meaning and my purpose in life, I believe, is to answer Mandela's personal call to me when I met him for the first time on Women's Day in 2003, where he said, "Young lady, keep up your excellent work in leadership across Africa and worldwide. Leadership is a leverage we can use to change the world." So living with purpose, being emboldened by my faith, supported by my village and my community, and daily action that was physical, that was mental, that was emotional, that was cross-cultural, set me on my path. Let's fast forward. When I met my oncologist, he told me I had a 50-50 chance of living or dying by March within 2 years, which was March this year. I had my CAT scan on March the 4th. I had a follow-up CAT scan on July the 8th. No detection, no recurrence, no metastatic cancer. And I have my next CAT scan on December the 17th. I have to say it also takes discipline. I was incredibly disciplined around it, but always visualizing this outcome. I'm not as 100% disciplined as I was before, but I'm back on track now. I'm kind of 95% there. I always was a bit of a perfectionist. I'm recovering from that. But I have my next CAT scan on December the 17th, and my new mantra, and by the way, a lot of people have asked me to write a book on my cancer journey, because I say to people that life is a leadership laboratory. And when these things happen to us in life, these adversities, it is our laboratory to practice exercising leadership in our working life, in our communities, in our families. And my new mantra is 2064. I say to people, I'm not dying anytime soon. I have a lot of things that I need to complete and finish on Mother Earth, and I'm fully booked until 2064. Visualization and dreaming, which inspired possibility and action, is the way that I have used visualization to continue the work in this world. And as Mandela always said, it always seems impossible until it is done.
Yeah. And so thank you so much. That is a wonderful story. And we hope and pray that everything will be fine on the 17th of December when those results are coming out. And thank you for sharing that with us. It's deeply inspiring to everybody on call. Okay, then I want to move on to Thuli. Thuli, you also have a wonderful story, and actually stories, to be quite honest, as well. Would you like to share one or two of them?
Yes, thank you so much, Velelem. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. So the story that I contributed to the chapter talks to how in the late 80s, I found myself pregnant. You can only imagine the disappointment that my parents got when they actually had to deal with the situation. And of course, I was also disappointed in myself, because here I was, a mom to a baby whilst I'm still a child myself. At the age of 18, I could no longer do what my peers were able to do, because I had to worry about a baby. And of course, I had to also face unemployment, because I only had matric. I had to watch my friends go to universities and go to colleges and realize that I cannot do anything. And to try and maybe earn a living, I tried to find whatever work I could find. And I got a job working at a general dealer in Soweto. Now, for those that know, a general dealer is a tiny shop in a township. And when you are called a general assistant, that's a glorified word for a person that does everything from scrubbing the floors to baking the fat cooks to doing anything. And that was very difficult, because I was having time to reflect and I did not like what I was seeing. So I had a defining moment, as negative as it was, but it did change the trajectory of my life. So whilst working at this general dealer in Tladi in Soweto, a young man came and uttered words that changed me, that made me angry at myself, that made me angry at what the future that I was actually staring looked like. And he was basically speaking the reality that I was just there. And I was just going to be that young person that works at this general dealer for the rest of her life and would not amount to anything. It forced me to actually look myself in the mirror. Not that I was unaware of it, but I made a decision at that point in time to say, I was going to lift myself. I was going to change the course of my life to prevent my son, who at that time was a baby, and my future kids from becoming part of the statistics that would have been negative and probably becoming involved in crime. I had to change myself in order to change the course of their journeys. I then had another positive defining moment when my parents allowed me to go and do a secretarial diploma so that I could find a job. And another defining moment when I got my first formal job. And for the first time, I found another person who believed in me. And back then, I did not even know there was a term for this. For the first time, I encountered a mentor, a person that saw the good in me, that believed in me at a time when I did not even believe in myself. And of course, there was a condition that he attached to me getting this job, because I can tell you I was the least qualified person of all the candidates that he had. But he saw potential in me. So the condition was that I was going to get this job and start enrolling at UNISA and study. Of course, I also needed to read.
Is that me or is it?
I think we lost Judy for a little bit.
Okay.
Oh, she's back.
When
She's
people engage in a conversation and they talk about campus life, I kind of like switch. I don't know what they are talking about. I can't identify with that because all my studies were actually done on a part-time basis. So I was very clear in my resolve. I was going to catch up with my friends. Yes, they might have gone to colleges and universities, but I was actually going to catch up and I was going to wear that graduation gown. I proceeded to obtain my other degrees, my honors, my master's, and PhD. And the vision that I had was compelling. I had the dream that one day my parents were going to watch me graduate. They would be proud of me. I was going to undo the hurt, the pain that I'd caused them. I was going to make them proud of me. And I was very excited when that dream came true, when the entire Kumalo clan and the Dabudi clan was present at the University of Johannesburg as I got my PhD. My parents are late now, but they were there. I still have pictures that every time I look at them and myself wearing that red graduation gown, I actually get shivers down my spine. But I knew that I needed to resolve that conflict within me by graduating, and proud to be the first person to graduate in the family. I had that vision and it was so strong, and I was not going to stop until I'd actually achieved it. And that is my story that I shared in the book.
Truly fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Augusta, I'm going to ask you now to give us some guidelines on how to visualize. What then, if you have developed and found your sort of visual image? One thing that really comes through already is there's between the vision that you create and the result, there's hard work as well. But over to you.
Thanks, Wilhelm. So as probably everyone on the call can gather, this is very much my passion. And before I move on to that, I just want to say to Tuli that when we read your story, there was not a dry eye in the house. And in actual fact, I want to make it one of my dreams to find Sebo, if I record his name correctly, and actually meet him and tell him, look at her now. So that's definitely on my list, and I'll be in touch with you about that. I'm sure we can find him. But I mean, who would know? But Wilhelm, just to get back to more of the structural question, and for everyone who hasn't had the opportunity to read the book yet, we deal with the structural aspects in great detail before each story, and then we also summarize. and give you some very good pointers in the book on how you can take that particular stage and actualize it, if you will. So anyone can have a vision. That's the easy part. But being intentional about executing on that vision is where the fun really starts for me in any case. The first step, in my opinion, and we deal with this extensively in the book, is to actually write it down. So in our digital age, there are many tools available online to create vision boards, which are essentially pictorial displays of how you see the components of your vision. And you can populate text onto those digital vision boards. A lot of people use large pieces of paper, and then they use mind maps and different symbols, and they then plot how the vision would actually come to its logical conclusion. What people used to do in my original coaching practice 20 years ago was to actually take pictures out of magazines. And I must say to you all that this is not an underrated practice. It's a very exciting practice to deploy, especially for young people. And we still have magazines, even if they are not as plentiful as they were 20 years ago. But often a beautiful photograph can signify where you want to be. So in my original practice, I used to encourage people, give them magazines, often let them bring their own magazines, and then let them cut out pictures and see what their future actually looked like. And that was a very, very powerful methodology. Nowadays, of course, one can use written documents, one can use journals. I use a combination of all of these different methodologies. And in the book, we have some examples of where people do use them, and then how they use other interesting methodologies like Post-it notes, for example. So if you've designed a physical vision board, you might find a colorful Post-it note when you have an aha moment, and then you make an annotation on your vision board using that particular Post-it note. And you'll see to great effect how some of the people who contributed stories to the book actually did this. So to summarize the key essence of the methodology, I would say to you all that you need to be intentional. And it doesn't help to keep the vision here. It needs to become a manifestation that you have on your wall, that you have on your office notice board, that you have in your diary, so that at those moments where things are not going so well and according to plan, and of course you heard from Anne about how she had this inferential diagnosis that just kept on getting more serious as the weeks grew longer, but how, notwithstanding such a shocking set of circumstances, she was able to still see herself continuing her work. And she articulated that so beautifully for all of us. And it's such a privilege for us to have heard that. But when you find an obstacle, and of course there are going to be obstacles, then you just bring yourself back to the tangible, whether it's digital or practical, and you're on your way again. And as you make progress, it's such fun to even tick off in bright colors. I've done that. Here I am now. And then look back, just in those silent moments, which we all have when we think, maybe I'm not really cut out for this. And then to say to yourself, look how far I've come. Thanks, Willem.
Thank you so much, Augusta. While you're at it, share with us your story, one of your stories.
So for those of you who know me, and there's one of you on the call tonight, it's my dearest friend, Prof. Cecile Gerwel-Prochet. I've reinvented myself 6 times over these 40 years, being 50% left brain and 50% right brain comes with enormous challenges, because you either painting or creating a process. And I have reinvented myself countless times, I must say, off the platform of education. When Shirley talks about education, my heart literally flutters. Because at the age of 3, my mother told me with no foreseeable means in sight that I was going to university. So there was no doubt that I was going to go to university. But each time that I've wanted to reinvent myself, and there's a beautiful story in the book where I relate my thanks to one of my great mentors, Dorning, who put me on my MBA journey, by the way. Every time I've reinvented myself, it's been off the back of reskilling, upskilling, micro-skilling, you name it. So education has changed a lot. Academia has a very strong place in our lives, but each reinvention that I dreamt for myself, I made possible by upskilling. And in the case of applying for a different role where I had 50% of the skills, I would upskill by consulting with mentors, by looking at micro skills, and in the case of the MBA, undertaking that journey, which was no small feat, and then moving along. And it's really fun once you get into the upskilling game to see just how many possibilities there are, especially nowadays. And I really encourage people to keep on upskilling. I'm not 25 anymore, as most people know, and I still do micro skills, and I find them fascinating. And they're amazing platforms where you can gain these skills. So my general message, thank you, Wilhelm, off the back of that, is to say you can reinvent yourself as many times as you like. And the skills are out there. Just grab them with both hands. And when you go to that interview or you stand on the precipice of something new, just do it. Just do it.
Augusta, thank you. And then let's move. Let's take that education and upskilling theme then a little bit further. Shirley, share with us your journey through Harvard.
Thank you very much, Wilhelm. So I think I just want to build on what Augusta said now. I think that I want to encourage everybody on this call that, they must continue to learn. Life is about learning. Every single moment, every single day is an opportunity to learn something new and to have a breakthrough mindset and unleash that talent and potential and magic within ourselves that often many people go through their entire life without, actually shining and letting those golden nuggets come through, because they've deferred, they've postponed, they've had anxiety, they've had stress, they worry about failure, what people are going to think of them. And I did the same. I still do that. I am enormously daunted every day by what I have to do in boardrooms. But very quickly, Wilhelm, as you said, I grew up on the Cape Flats during apartheid. I was born in 1961, I'll tell you. And so you know that, because that locates me firmly in, a special arrangement under the Group Areas Act where, people were moved, Black people were moved from the periphery, to the periphery of society, and socio-economic challenges that still continue to challenge these kinds of communities, the gender-based violence, the gangsters. It's a huge challenge, but there is enormous opportunity in that. And we had to go and live with my grandmother, my sister. I have a sister that's 3 years younger than I am, and being the eldest, daughter, and having to take care and have the responsibility at a very young age of another person was an incredible challenge to me. We had to move to my grandmother during the week because the walk to primary school was just too challenging and too full of risks. And my grandmother was pretty tough. I mean, my father was the one that said, please, will you get matric? Please make something of yourself, even in this dire circumstances. And my mother was the one who talked about values of respect, of humility, of kindness, of generosity of spirit, of service to humanity. And those lessons have stayed with me. My grandmother, and Anne, yes, to your point about the village, and the neighbors used to take care of all the children in the neighborhood in the afternoon after school. And my grandmother was about discipline. You know what? You do not play tomorrow if you don't come in on time today. You need to think about how you spend your time, spend it wisely, and respect other people's time. So I'm still a stickler for, discipline is very important, especially in a chaotic world. Hard work is very important. We do not get to have conversations like this if we haven't done the 9 hard yards. And dedication and diligence to what we, have to get up to do every single day. And so this is a kind of, growing up, a young age. And that is why I'm saying visualization, and as Augusta was saying at 3 years old, it can start at a very early age already. It doesn't, it's so important that we start planting those seeds into our children's minds and hearts so that they can begin to feel that there is a better future for them and begin to have those dreams at an early age. So there's no age sort of limitation and no expiry date, as I was saying. And if things happen to you along the way, that happened to me as well, you can find a way to still get up and put one foot in front of the other. So when I was at high school and I finally got to matric, there's 2 teachers, and I went and I continued to say thank you to both of them. That 5 minutes you took with me to say I must go and talk about university to my family that night, that changed the trajectory of my life forever, pretty much like Tuli was also saying. And there was also first generation university. The teachers helped me to fill in the form and a government bursary and all of that. I could then go and I ticked the box to become a teacher because I didn't have time really to think, but I only had 3 choices: teacher, nurse, or social worker, I think it was at the time. And I could resonate with those teachers, and I want to celebrate every educator today because we play such important roles in the lives of our children and students, even in their latter ages. And then, of course, I went to teach, and I went to the University of the Western Cape to lecture. And then, of course, I met Kevin. And Kevin and I are now married for 33 years. And I know you had the opportunity to meet Kevin long ago already. I think Anne came to my 50th birthday party in Johannesburg. It was an incredible time, Anne, in our lives. And Kevin has been such an important partner in my life, because he's grounded me and he's focused me and he's supported me and he's loved and he's cared for me, often beyond what is the call of duty in kind of a love and care relationship. So his mom cut out the advert one day to say, it read something like Harvard South Africa Fellowship now open for application. And if you go and Google that right now, you will see that they provide financial assistance for students who get into Harvard. So you need to get through the academic hoops. And I see Naomi on the line tonight. Naomi, thank you for joining us. Naomi is now the alumni, the president of the Harvard alumni in South Africa, which I was very proud to be part of the founding of the Alumni Association in South Africa. But never in my life would I have imagined that I would have gone to Harvard. Never, ever. My mother-in-law was the one who slipped this thing out for me and believed in me and said, if you don't apply, you will never know. So I just want to encourage all of you. Sometimes, you got to take some calculated risks and you got to get over your own edges to propel yourself forward. And that is how I got to Harvard. And then I had this amazing supervisor that said to me, well, you've done your master's, now you can do your doctorate. And I said, well, where will the money come from? He said, well, first you got to get in. You're in a queue with plenty of people from all around the world. And this is not just a form-filling exercise. You got to stand up, you got to speak, you got to, all the things that create edginess for me. That's what I had to be doing. And then if that wasn't enough, we had Jamie. We gave birth to our only child in 1995, right in the middle of my doctorate at Harvard in Boston, Massachusetts. And it was incredible to come back with Jamie and my doctorate. The reception at the Cape Town International was incredible. And I wanted to work in the education department in the Western Cape. I didn't land that job. And that door closed, and a much bigger door into being a training manager in a corporate, which was my first corporate job ever. That opened the door into HR and the journey that I've been on in HR. And then in 2003, and I think, Anne, you also referenced 2003 about your mom. In January 2003, the 3rd of January 2003 to be exact, we were in a terrible accident here on the N2 just past Cape Town International Airport. And we lost Jamie. He was 7 years old. He was our only child. He was so integral to our story. He was a healthy, bouncing boy. And, you know, in that moment, we lost him, and it was incredibly devastating for us, and still is. And I think out of that, I had to find my healing. I had to go and dig deep through my intellectual, emotional, social, spiritual, whatever those might mean to you, anchors, and say, get help if you need help. That's what I want to encourage all of you to do as well. We need to reach out and get help, whether it be professional or whether it be friends or family. If you need that kind of help, you must get it. I thought somehow intellectually I can manage, but no, I needed more. So I went for the help. Kevin and I went. And I got to a point where I had to dig deep and pull myself out of that. And I realized that my purpose in that moment was more refined through the fires of grief, to be able to say, I can come back and I can use the situation to ensure that wherever I go, I'm going to create a culture in an organization that cares about its people, that supports education and development of people, that is going to change the life of communities and create opportunities through education for our children. And that is what brings me right back to the present year, Wilhelm, because I think that, as Augusta was saying, it has to be intentional. And sometimes people look for a magic silver bullet, but it is a continuous effort of putting one foot in front of the other every day, knowing that there will be distractions and derailers, but knowing that you have the strength to get up because you have people who love and care for you around you, will uplift you and will challenge you and that will take you forward on this journey. So the stories that we tell are very powerful. The messages that we give ourselves is very powerful. And I want to thank you tonight, Wilhelm, Augusta, Anne, and Thuli, for the journeys that you've shared along the way with us through all of these book launches. It's been incredibly moving and compelling and insightful. And I just tonight want to encourage everyone on this call that, you know, just to reflect on whatever it is that you postpone, defer, wait for the right moment. Sometimes we will, you know, the time, as Anne was saying, you know, feels like it might just run out on us. And we need to be focused. We need to be clear. We need to be bold and courageous. And we need to put the effort in to make the impossible possible. Wilhelm, you're on mute.
I'm on mute, Shirley. We thank you very much for sharing that journey with us. It's been tough, but there were also highlights, and along the way that you didn't share is how many people you've inspired and mentored and coached and guided and paid it forward. Thank you very much for that. Guys, you know, I always say, just when a panel really gets going, the time runs out. So we're almost at the end, and I want to ask you, just in maybe one or two sentences, do you still have dreams? And what is that dream, if you would like to share with us? Thuli, I'm going to kick off with you.
Okay, thank you. So for me, it's 2 more books. One that would be a collaboration with other contributors, and one that would just be a Thuli book. Another mountain after Kilimanjaro. It definitely won't be Everest, but it would also be a significant mountain. I got myself a farm and I'm busy working on it. So it's about getting it ready, getting to a point where it's productive. And then finally going back to the village where I grew up and continue to make a difference. I feel that I've started, but I can do so much better. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, okay. We'll talk about the books. Which mountain are you going to climb, by the way? Are you fit? Are you training for it?
I'm thinking of Mount Kenya.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We'll talk around it. And on your side, you're muted, by the way.
Grace. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Willem. I have a lot of dreams still to fulfill. I think the one I'm busy writing the book, Mandela's Leadership Blueprint, a proven way to win the good fight in the world today. I host a podcast, as you mentioned, Leading Boldly into the Future, and I'm also writing up a curriculum, a workbook, and masterclasses to galvanize with this incredible movement worldwide. I co-founded with Shirley and many other people a Mandela-inspired global leadership movement for change to help us navigate these chaotic and existential threats and opportunities. So my dream is to get all this work launched on Mandela's birthday in 2026, to work with these courageous change makers. I've interviewed 100 change makers all over the world on my podcast, and to launch the work and the book into colleges and universities across the United States, Europe, Africa. And we're in discussions with different universities in different countries and on different continents. And, to really, recently I've just had the very humbling privilege of winning the Global Power Leader Award presented at the UK Parliament in the House of Lords. And it was a very humbling and a very inspiring, experience. But I think the dream from that is to galvanize these incredible change makers from all over the world, to help them take Mandela's leadership blueprint, to empower them and inspire them and transform our leadership crisis so that all over the world we leave a loving, lasting, and better world for all.
Thank you so much. And Shirley, on your side, by the way, before you kick off, Shirley, I just want to mention to the audience that you can order the book. It's in an e-format as well as a printed format on our website at the moment. It is available at Exclusive Books as well. The link is on our in the chat room if you want to. I've already seen here people placing orders. It warms my heart to see those orders coming through. Shirley.
Thank you, Bilal. Thank you. I think I'm pretty much like Tuli and Anne said, and I know Augusta will say as well, we want to deepen this legacy of education and mentorship and ensuring that we are creating an inclusive economy and inclusive places of work, inclusive communities, and also ensuring that we're passing on the baton and that we are building, we are documenting what it is that we are doing. And this is why this book is so important, because we share the stories and it will be there for perpetuity. We also want to amplify our advocacy around economic equity and intergenerational dialogue. And then, of course, a personal fulfillment, I think, is very, very important for each one of us. And we often do not think about, human-centric leadership in the way that we should, and how we can play a role into that. And then, of course, our family is very important, and our communities. So I'm hoping to continue this work in whatever way, shape, or form I can as I move into, some legacy making moments here, and this book is part of it. Thank you, Bilal.
Thank you, Shirley. Augusta, what are your...
Thanks, Matilda. So I'm living my dream at the moment. I have a very, very wide range of interests and things that I'm involved in, and I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity of all of them. My ultimate dream is to be a global ambassador for ethics in healthcare. It's an area of my work that I started exploring about 12 years ago. And I'd like to build on some very good work that I've done with the World Bank recently, and then to carry on inspiring leaders in healthcare to open access to everybody, to make universal health coverage something that we just take for granted, as opposed to something that we really wish for.
Thank you. Guys, thank you for that. What comes through, if I can summarize in 1 or 2 sentences, that all 4 of you, your dreams that you're still pursuing, and much of your career, all your careers, almost most of it, was to be a change, to make a change, to contribute to humanity, to create a better world. And that seems to be part of visualization as well, that there is also this almost responsibility of your vision, of your purpose in life, your calling, because that's actually what you're striving towards, isn't it? That you want to find out what is really your calling, and then pursue it. That's about the betterment of our world and humanity and our society. For that, we really salute all 4 of you. Thank you for the major work that you've done over many years, and that you're still energized and ready to take on future challenges to improve our society. So thank you to all of you. To our delegates this evening, thank you to all of you as well.